thank you for joining me today. I'm Deborah, Stitching Granny of 17. And I want to welcome all the new subscribers that have come from Chrissy, Finally a Farm Girl. Thank you so much for the shout out. I appreciate it. And she will be our featured designer at the end of this month. So stay tuned. I'm going to be stitching up some of her things and hopefully have a finish when I present her. But this month we have Darlene Dion Designs. I showed you already some of the ones that I've done. Home is where your honey is. And I made that into a quilted wall hanging. And this one I completed last week. And I turned it into a quilted pillow. I did the little flange and put a zipper. So that way I can reuse this pillow form. It's about a 10-inch pillow. I take that back. It's a 12-inch pillow. Sorry. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Stitching with the Twins. I've watched them. They've got 2 videos out. They should be putting out another video today or tomorrow. It's about time for their next video. So go check them out. They are sweet. They're twins. I believe they're 9 years old. They are stitching. They are doing an amazing job. I enjoy watching them and listening to them because they can be a hoot. So go check them out. And don't forget, Darlene Dion Designs, she's our featured designer, and she has offered 2 designs, and I'll put them right here for us to give away today. And what I want you to say in your comments, to either put quilting or stitching. That's the 2 words that I'm going to be looking for. If you want the cross stitch, say stitching. If you want the quilting, say quilting. So there's a quilting pattern and a cross stitch pattern. And this is to get you ready for Christmas in July. I'm going to feature this week about the giveaway, and I'm going to feature next week about the giveaway. So 2 weeks from today, we will do the giveaway. So you've got plenty of time to be commenting, to be looking at her designs, to be stitching her designs. Put in your comments. I'm going to have to pull it from 2 different videos. Say the word stitching for the cross stitch design. Say the word quilting for the quilting design. Question I want you to answer is, tell me what type of cloth you like to stitch on. Are you a Aida stitcher? Are you a linen stitcher? Do you like to stitch on 28 count, 27 count, 25 count, 32 count, 40 count? Just tell me what it is you like to stitch on. What is your favorite cloth that you like to stitch on? Don't forget, do not mention the words giveaway, prize, win, because we don't want any of those people that's just looking to win something. Most of the time they'll give it away, and we don't want to do that to our designers because this will be a PDF, so it's open worldwide. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to try to find some designers that have PDFs that I can either purchase, or we can feature them and they'll offer a design that we can give away. So that way it will be open up worldwide. And once I hit 2,000 subscribers, I will make another project bag, maybe 2, we'll see. I'm contemplating whether or not I should start making project bags and open an Etsy shop. I don't know. I've sewed for the public before. I kind of enjoy sewing for me and not being obligated, but I know Darlene, she sells some of her project bags, so she makes them up, and it is what it is. And if you want it, you buy it, and if you don't, you don't. So I kind of like that idea. That way I can use up some of my fabrics. So I'll think about it. Tell me what you think in the comments, whether you would be interested in me doing that or not. I have quite a bit to show you. It's probably going to be longer than normal. I want to show you something else that I enjoy doing, and that's hand embroidery. I haven't really shown any of that here, but I've showed a couple of finished pieces. But I've gotten my pieces out because I'm trying to fully finish them so that I can turn them into something. That's my goal, is to have my WIPS, that's works in progress, to finally be finished, because I have had too many. My stack is slowly going down a little bit back here. So sooner or later, hopefully sooner, I'll be caught up. Okay, now let's get on with the stitching. I have some previous fully finishes to show you today. I don't have any current finishes to show you. I have lots of works in progress. So I don't believe I've showed these on my floss tube before. But here's Stitching with the Housewives. And that's the June Truckin' Along series. And I have a little strawberry up here in the bow. The bow isn't wired. And this was stitched on 14 count Ada, and it's a navy by Swigart. And I used all the DMC flosses. I did the Waxing Moon June design. And I forgot to tell you, the board on Truckin' Along, my son cut that board. This board was bought at Hobby Lobby, and it's got a little stand. So this was Waxing Moon June. And so there's a strawberry theme going on here. And then on Country Cottage Needleworks was their monthly series. And I did this last year, and it's got little strawberries on it. It's got lemons. Yeah, it's got some lemons and watermelons. So it's appropriate for June because everybody starts eating watermelons. And this is found at Hobby Lobby. This little sign, they still have it this year. I don't know if they're going to have it next year. They didn't have nearly as many this year. And this was done on a 14 count and by Swigart, but I hand dyed it. I tea dyed it and coffee dyed it. So I have progressed with my stitching. You're going to see some from 11 count all the way to 32 count today. So I have gone down. All right, the first I want to show you is one of my take-along stitches. And this is with Stitch Card Set L by Lori Holt. And I've got one of them completed and one of them almost completed. And I used the called for DMC flosses on these. Sorry, my hand's shaking for some reason. So these are pretty fun. I have another take-along stitch, and I'll show that in a minute. But it depends on how much time I have to stitch, whether or not I stitch on this one. If I just have a few minutes, I pull this one out because it's so easy. Next one I'd like to show you is Patriotic Barn Trio. I'm doing this along with Niecy Lynn. She's doing the Patriotic Barn series or trio, but there's a stitch along going, and it's Waxing Moon Designs, SAL. So go ahead and join us. You can stitch any of the trio series. And this is the one that I'm doing. This is going to be my first drum. So I'm excited about it. And I started this on May the 28th. And this is done on 28 count Mushroom Lugana. And I'm using the DMC flosses. So I'm looking forward to working on this some more. I only worked on this on the 28th and some on the 29th, just a little bit. And then I had to move on to our featured designer and get busy on her design. And this one's by the Wildwood. My printer is kind of running out of ink, but I'll keep printing until it completely runs out. If it's something that I need to print and have a beautiful coloring, then I'll go ahead and reprint it later after I change the ink. And this one is stitched on 32 count ice by Swigart, and it's kind of got a purplish grayish tint. It's a subtle purple, but more of a gray. And I do have purple on the door. It's because my church, our color is purple, and we do have purple doors. We don't have a typical church building. We have an old log cabin right now, but we're in search of a new building. So we're praying that we find that very soon. The next one that I've been working on is the Patriotic Welcome. This has been fun. I love the colors. I love how vibrant it is. It makes it a little bit difficult to stitch, but I'm doing it okay. It's designed by Diane Authors, and it's an imaginating design or pattern. And it's stitched on 18 count vintage by Swigart. And I used the called for DMC flosses. And this one's still in the hoop because I was working on it this morning. And where I was at before, I finished the, what do you call that? A star, seashell, or starfish, something. And then I did the welcome. And what I worked on this time was this part up in here. And then this little teeny blue star. It's kind of hard to see. I can see it better than I'm sure it's showing up on the video. And I'm stitching this along with my friend Rhonda. So Rhonda, did you pull it out yet? We got a lot we got to work on. The next one I'm working on, I won this by a bit full of scrap stuff. She had a giveaway on Instagram, and so I entered, and lo and behold, I won. And I won Bloom Where You're Planted. I won the fabric and the floss and the pattern, of course. I chose not to use the fabric because I think I'm going to be using that in the month-to-month series by Stitching with the Housewives. So I decided I wanted something a little bit darker because it did have white floss in it. I wanted something a little bit darker, so I used Ivory 14 count by Swigart. And I used all the call for flosses that came with the kit. So this is one of my take-along stitches. If I have more time to sit there and stitch, then I pull this out. If I just have a couple of minutes, then I pull out Lori Holt's patterns. So it gives me an option. I'm kind of enjoying changing all my stitching. I used to just stitch on one thing until I finished and then started something else. Now I want to show you some of my hand embroidery. And the first that I'm going to show you is called Be Beautiful Quilt Along by Pamela Morgan. And you can find these patterns online. If I can link it, I'll do my best to link it for you. And it's by Moda, of Sweet Little Stitches for Moda Bake Shop. So she's got some beautiful designs. My friend Karen did this, and she entered it into the quilt show several years ago. And that's when I first saw it. So I downloaded the patterns and I started them. And I'm doing a lot of satin stitches in mine. I like the way they show out. They stand out when it's in a quilt when you have satin stitches. So So that's one of them. Bear with me, I've got quite a few on here. And here, sorry, there's another one. And the theme on these are bees. And some of these are from other patterns that I've seen online. So not all of them are in this quilt along. So you may see some, and I don't recall which ones they are. I just see something, I'll print it off, and then I'll transfer it onto my fabric, and then hand embroidery. And this is a mindless stitch. You can take these anywhere. You don't have to think to be able to hand embroidery, because you're not having a pattern you have to follow. It's already printed on your fabric. And this, I did a little bit of applique in the sun and the kite. And I did a needle turn applique on those. And then this next one is all satin stitched. At least the cake, the bee, the strawberry, and the flower. And here it is. Let me see if I can get close enough so you can see it. But that cake is all satin stitched. And it's really not hard. You just use a couple of more flosses. If you're standard using 2, then you can use at least three strands of floss to 4 to get your satin stitch, but you'll have to straighten out your threads so they don't twist and turn. And then here's another one, and I did the needle turn on the hat. These all work out really pretty in a quilt. And I got some fabric yesterday that had some bees and honeycomb. Now this one I thoroughly enjoyed. Just the bicycle. And the tires are satin stitched. And the seat is satin stitched. And then here's another one. I was tempted to use colored pencils in this, but then I wanted the simplicity of just having the embroidery. So it's kind of hard to make up your mind when you're doing things. Either go straight all stitching or add paint, colored pencils, markers. There's all kind of things you can do with embroidery. And this one's adorable. I love the sheep. And then here's another cat. And this one that I'm getting ready to show you, it's all satin stitched on the stick and on the lid. So it's got a little drop of honey getting it out of the honey jar. And I had thought about coloring this in here so that there would be some honey. So I still haven't decided on that. And this one's be happy, be kind, be joyful. And so there again, the sunflower satin stitched. I got kind of carried away with satin stitches. I kind of enjoy the way it looks and the different textures that you can give it. And these flowers are satin stitched. And then this one is hand appliqued mixed in with embroidery. I'm not sure which way this is supposed to go. Maybe it's supposed to go this way. It's kind of hard to decide. I guess it's whatever I want to make it. And I love this fabric, the honeycomb fabric. I don't have much of that left. This one, I'm not sure who put out this design. I'm thinking maybe it was Jacqueline Steves. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back and try to find it. It's either that or Jenny Elephants. I do a lot of both of their things. And Jacqueline Steves is part of the Art of Home Club. And you can either use her patterns for hand embroidery or applique. Then here's a little barn. Okay, the next ones that I want to show you, I think I got these online, and it's birds. Now I'm tempted to put these in with the red and white quilt along that I did with Lori Holt. I'm tempted to put these in there and make that quilt even bigger. I like to make, when I make quilts, I usually like to go king size. I do make them smaller, and yes, I do quilt them on my domestic machine. I will take it in half usually, and then I'll join it. And I do have a tutorial on how to quilt by rows, and you can use that same technique by breaking the quilt in half. And I'll show you, I didn't show you the backs of these, but it's kind of, it's a little hard to see the difference between the backs and the fronts sometimes. But I wanted to show you on here because I don't knot anything. I weave my threads back through previous stitches to be able to tie it off. It's not going to come out. And this little bird right here kind of looks like he might have saw something. It's like, oh no, I need to get out of here. I really wasn't crazy about his face or her face. And then the ones I'm going to show you now came from this book, and it's called Redwork Blizzard Buddies by Annie's Quilting. So I got this at Hobby Lobby. And I'm not sure if those birds came from a book. I couldn't find it this morning, or if I found them online, and I'm thinking I found them online. But here's some of the blocks that I've done in that Redwork Blizzard Buddy series. And sometimes I stitch on solid white fabric, and sometimes I'll take white on white or beige on white. I like a little texture sometimes, and sometimes I like it nice and smooth. Those two were done with some texture. It had like little snowflakes, white on white. Here's the next one. I like the little bird houses. This one I just showed you, but I stitched it twice. This one's on a solid white background. The other one was done on snowflake background. And the reason why I did that is because the snowflake background I'll probably turn into a pillow. But there's a lot of cute ideas in this book. Look at this book. See, they got little wall hangings right here. You can make pot holders, a table runner, and tea towels. There's all kind of things in here that you can make. Even this square table runner. And I am definitely going to be turning these into something very soon. And I'll show you I finished a quilt, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. And let's see. Got one more of the snowmen. So if I want all white background and I want to turn it into that square table topper, then I'll have to do one more block and that will be ready. Or I may just turn it into separate little wall hangings like I just showed you. Now this one, I will place the name of the designer right down here because I don't want to mess it up. I'm having a senior moment. But she's got it on her blog, and I will copy it and paste it in the description below so you can find it there. And then these are little gingerbread houses, and she has little appliques, little hearts and gingerbread along with 4 patches to place with these blocks. And I'm on the search for the right fabric to put with these. And they're starting to put Christmas fabric out now. I saw in Hobby Lobby. And I'm sure they're doing it in Joann's. So I will do a search and find the right fabric that I want to go with this. And I chose to use different colors. And that's one good thing about hand embroidery. You can use up what's left on your bobbins. You don't have very much because it doesn't really matter. You can change colors anytime you want. And you don't have a certain pattern you have to follow. You just have fun with it. And then I wanted to show you a book that a good friend of mine, Debbie Miller, had gotten me. And I pulled this out because I want to start on something for Christmas. I really like that pillow, but I may turn that into a wall hanging. So if you haven't checked out Hobby Lobby's books yet, go check them out. They have a lot of hand embroidery. They do have some cross-stitch books. Now I'm going to show you the quilts. I showed you when I finished piecing this. I showed you when I finished the top, and now I've been quilting it. This one I'm not finished with yet. I'll show you the one that I'm finished with in just a minute. It's for my grandson. And this is done free motion. And all I did in the sashing is just do straight lines. And I just did that free motion too. I did not use anything. I started using painter's tape and I said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. It is what it is. Once it's washed, you're really not going to be able to tell. My grandson's graduation party's tomorrow. So I did finish his quilt. And all I did with this is just did straight line stitching like a crosshatch. And I wish I would have rethought this because I used navy thread going one direction, the same direction that the navy blocks are going. I used navy threads. And so right here is a navy thread, right there is a navy thread, and then all going the direction of the gold squares is the gold threads, and they're not showing up very good. But it's gonna be loved. It's gonna be hopefully on his bed at school, and it may get tucked away, but once he graduates, I'm sure he's gonna appreciate it. But that's it for today with the stitching. I wanted to chat just a little bit before I get into the Bible. I wanted to talk with y'all a little bit I try to leave these videos positive. I don't talk about current events. I'm not one that watches the news, because I found that watching the news causes me to become depressed, feeling down, and not joyful. So I got away from watching the news, and I can live in my own little world. And you'd be surprised how much of the news that you hear when you're out and about when you don't watch the news. So I stay well informed, and when I hear things like the shootings and things like that, I do pray. And I do pray for our country often, daily, as much as I can think to pray about our country. I pray for our country. I pray for those in need. And I think that's what we all need to do. We need to continue to pray and support one another. And if someone asks you to pray, go ahead and stop and pray right then, because you'll forget later. If you stop and pray right now, when they say, I need your prayers, then you'll remember to pray for them later. And so today, I wanted to ask y'all, do you let your light shine so that others will see Christ in you? I try to. I really do. And I do fail. Like yesterday, we were in the car and we were at a light, and it's right next to a train track. So once the light turns, it's time for you to go, but you got to keep an eye out for the train. Well, we were behind another car, and they kept kind of creeping a little bit, and they'd stop and creep a little bit and stop. And it's like, you can turn right on red. Why they didn't, I don't know. So they sat there until the light turned green. Finally, the light turned green, and they started to go, and then they stopped. And it's like, I'm like this. I reached over and blew the horn. Shame on me. Because then I looked up and I saw the arrow with a X, because the train was coming. The turn signal, it was an X where you cannot make a right turn, because that means the train's coming. So the arms hadn't started coming down yet, but then they did. So I really felt bad. And I have calmed down quite a bit than what I used to be. I had to go and flow perfectly. And so I was ashamed of myself, because I could have done better. I could have just been patient. I wasn't sitting in the car stitching yesterday. I was just sitting there talking to my husband. And so when I do that, I tend to pay more attention of things around me and what's going. So maybe it's better that I do stitch in the car so that I don't pay attention, because it seems like the old me kind of creeps out, and I don't like that. So I found that I still need some adjustments. God still needs to continue to work on me. He's not finished with me yet. I know I've got a long way to go. So that made me think about letting my light shine. So that made me start thinking about, that's not really letting my light shine for Christ, is it? No, it wasn't. And I just wanted to bury my head, and I kept saying, Lord, forgive me. And my husband said, don't worry about it. It happens to the best of us, and it does. It happens to the best of us. So in Matthew 5:14, it says, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but put it on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. So that's why I do these videos. It's so that I can glorify God, because He's the one that gave me these talents. And if I hide them, and don't use them, I'm not glorifying God. So I hope that I can be an inspiration to y'all and let my light shine so that you can see Christ in me. And I encourage y'all to let God's light shine from you so that others will see him. Thank y'all for joining me today. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe. God bless.